You're still here on New Day, and of course today we're dealing into a very crucial topic. We're talking about inclusive education. Matilda has been able to brave the odds right from being diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the tender age of 6 months, and now she is in final year of senior high school. Portia Gabo delves deep into her life to find out how the journey has been. Let's watch this.
She braved the odds and joined over 251 candidates at the Medina Islamic Center to write the basic education certificate exams. Matilda is writing the mathematics paper. A student with cerebral palsy may find it difficult to write fast and legibly. In order to assist her, the West African Examination Council granted her the permission to use a laptop for exams. Matilda, how was the paper?
It was a bit difficult.
How does it feel to write the BC?
It feels normal, but the arrangement was a bit not okay. The buyer need to bring a computer, but they could not bring it.
Because of her condition, she couldn't write mathematics because there is no any software that can help her identify the diagrams and then symbols that can help her work out all the other things. I think they have to put certain things in place. Once they are talking about inclusive, we need to put everything together that everybody will benefit.
When the West Africa Examinations Council, WAEC, released results of the June 2016 BECE, Matilda qualified to be placed in school.
You know, the Ghana Education Service is running an all-inclusive system of education now, and we made sure we place her in West Africa Senior High School.
I was privileged to watch the program on TV3 that showed us Matilda. At the time, she was writing a BECE, and I was touched indeed. And as if by design, he has been sent to West Africa Senior High School.
With support from her peers, teachers and parents, Matilda feels comfortable and is able to participate in class.
Maid servant. The maid belongs to which class of words?
Enough.
Here for Matilda.
How are you coping in school?
Quite well.
Your colleagues here, how are they treating you?
Quite. They are treating me good. They help me in going around the school and we eat together.
TV3 brought to you the inspiring story of Matilda at Benyega. She's now a student at the West Africa Senior High School and wants to be a nurse in future. She has one message for persons with disability, that disability is not inability. Matilda, however, wants one challenge addressed.
I want to tell WAEC to provide the software so that doing exam can be faster and easier.
Portia Gabo, TV3.
So joining me to discuss this very important issue, I have Matilda Abenyega. She's a student with cerebral palsy, of course. Then I also have Joseph Sapon. He's the resource teacher for GES. Then I have Stephen Frillish. He's a chief technical officer at Working IT Solution. I also have Jeremiah Bedu. He's with GES. And then finally, Matilda, Eunice Rachel Abenyaji. She's with Star Ghana, and she's for the Gender Equality and Social Inclusion and Capacity Building Manager. That's a mouthful. But certainly this interview is supported by Star Ghana with funding from UKA, Danida and EU. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So let's delve into it. Now I'll start with Matilda because we saw you out there. Matilda, how has the journey been for you in school currently as SHS final year student?
The journey has been a bit difficult.
Matilda, let me just hold the microphone for you and then you can speak into it.
The journey has been a bit difficult because in school, when we start class, you need to prepare, put your laptop laptop on your desk and be able to, when the teacher comes in, he or she teaches, you should be able to get him or her how he or she teach. And when it is time for exercise or classwork, maybe the teachers will write, others dictate. So you need to, if they dictate, you don't get it, so you need to see by a friend to copy some of the questions.
Right. But with the laptop, do you have any special challenges with it, or you're just okay as it is now?
The laptop, I have a bit challenge with it. One, when you set it, when you on it, you need to take your time before it is set up, and before you really start it. Maybe when the teacher is dictating, he or she might not wait for you for the laptop to be complete before you or she start to dictate. In some cases, the teachers may write on the board. So in that, the question is on the board. So you get to look on it and type. For that one, it's okay, but in a way of dictating, before the computers reboot, then the teachers have moved to the next question or something. So you need to sit by a friend to get the question before you can start.
Very well. Let me come to you, Joseph, because you are the teacher with them, and so you understand some of these challenges on the ground. Can you tell me a few of it and how maybe you have braced to be able to move over these challenges?
I think some of the challenges she's saying was right, because when it comes to dictating to the child, you see, some of them will go faster. But what about her? Typing, she takes time before typing one sentence. So sometimes when it comes to this way, she may be lacking behind. So what we do is sometimes, if we like, when she was in JHS, we type some of the questions and give it to her. Then she retype it in a dish and then answer it, and then we print it for her to. So
that obviously is faster and helps her.
That is it. That one's better for her. But when she is in SS now, I think that's where the challenge comes in. And then one thing is her software, like mathematics, like that, she cannot write, use the laptop to work mathematical questions. So that way she may be lacking. She can't do anything in mathematics. That is another challenge she's facing.
Very well.
Seriously.
So Stephen, let me try and correlate that, because she obviously has a challenge with math. I'm sure when it comes to diagrams and geometry, she can't do it. But you with IT, do you think there's a software that could help children with special needs?
So definitely yes, there's software available right now, but we don't have software that would cover every single use case. So there's one in particular called ModMath, which is an iPad application. Basically, it gives you a graph sheet, a digital graph sheet, for you to be able to answer your questions and stuff like that. Basically, it's tailored for people who have writing disabilities, who don't really understand numbers or who are illegible. So yes, we do. You would have to look at her use case or her particular problem, which looking at the documentary, we noticed that when she was using the laptop, there were times when she was trying to move the mouse around and she was accidentally highlighting. So yes, even though she has a laptop, I've noticed that it's not well tailored for her situation. It needs to be looked at again, and the software that's installed on it unique to her. Things like her being required to listen to dictated notes and transcribe, it's just much more work for her to do. The focus should be on helping her communicate better, and helping her submit answers to questions that she's been asked better, rather than on dictating stuff from the teachers. Things like that should be digitized for her use. I also think the use of the laptop, even though it seems good, might actually be hampering her. She's mentioned it, but she might need something that's more portable. So that she can use that around as she goes, and something that helps her easily. You notice with her case, cerebral palsy, she has random movements of her hand. So you can't give her something and expect her to use something like a mouse.
Right.
You need to give her something else, maybe use the arrow keys for moving her mouse around. For this, a specialized keyboard or even an on-screen specialized keyboard like ModMath does, that would allow you to enter mathematical equations and symbols easily. So yes, there's software that can help her, but it's not a single software. It would have to be a mix and match of numerous different types of software to address each of her needs. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Jeremiah, let me also come to you. Does hearing this from at least an IT expert give you some hope that all is not lost? GES has more work to do, but certainly you can start from somewhere.
Yes, we can. And I believe that this is what inclusion is all about.
Okay.
We need everybody on board to support the system. Now, for instance, if teachers are dictating notes to her, you see, the system is said that the system must adapt to the needs of the child, and not the child adapting to the system. No, that's where some of the teachers are getting it wrong. So, for instance, you are coming to a class and you know that you have a child like this in the class. You need to prepare for her, so I should be at par with the rest of the children. These are some of the education that we need to drum home very well. And with the IT, I think that the IT experts will really help us a lot. So I'll be able to procure these things for these children because they are diverse and each have its own specific challenge with specific needs that must be met.
But the question now again is, have you involved such IT people? Because I don't think this will be the first time we're hearing this. But every time we come back to stakeholders, the thing is we're in the implementation phase. It doesn't seem to be that you have this integrated talk about the inclusive education.
Yes, we've involved some of them. And some of them have been able to support, especially the blind, with some softwares and some assistive devices. But when it comes to the case of cerebral palsy, I can't remember that we've actually involved them as we need to. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you also mentioned something important about the teacher adapting to the needs of the students. But in our current system where the ratio, there's a huge mismatch, what then will GES do? Say maybe consider putting more teachers in a classroom that has a child with special needs?
I think we need more resource persons to support the mainstream teachers. You can't say that all teachers should go and study special education. No, we can't do that. So we need to put in more specialists, resource persons to actually support the mainstream teachers who can even take their notes and see how best they will adapt it to suit the child before the teacher even comes to the classroom. This is what we need to do.
So let me come to you, Eunice. Star Ghana, you've heard all these challenges, you've heard all these problems. What do you think you can bring on board to help the children?
Well, I think that in line with our strategic approach to the kind of work we do, we provide grants to civil society organizations. We provide grants to media organizations. And we also support specific state institutions that have some roles to play in terms of response to gender equality and social inclusion. So this partnership, even with TV3, that has brought to the fore the challenge of our sister, is one of those. And we have mentioned, I think, around that, the need to have this regular, and broad conversation on how we can implement the inclusive education policy is even heightened, because around the table are parents who have such children. We also do have people within our communities that have those kind of challenges. We have people who have expertise in developing equipment, tools, assistive devices that these people can use. We have GES that has the mandate to deliver quality education services to all kinds of children inclusively. So what we are missing is all of us sitting together and discussing what can be done to implement this policy better so that no one is left behind. So our support really is to get going on this kind of conversation. I remember very well that last year, during the celebration of International Disability Day, the subject for discussion was the inclusive education policy. And they focused on learners with hearing impairment. And there was a clear indication that we need to develop a standard sign language for these people. We lack that. We are also hearing of children and increasing numbers, of course, of children with cerebral palsy. How are we adapting to the various needs that we are confronted with each and every day? And everyone has a solution, you know, a part of the solution. And it is only when we get talking that we can all contribute to the development of these people. And I think that we need to see a bit more equity in the education budget, because within learners are those that are in conditions of marginalization. And if a budget is equitable, what it means is that you are investing resources to the needs of these people. And we need to see that, because if we are talking about equipment, we are talking about money. If we are talking, and UNICEF says that about 100,000 children have some form of disability, and about 16,000 of them are out of school. So we are missing a lot on these people. So we need to reflect that equity in the education budget. If we have to invest more to be able to implement the inclusive education policy, we should be willing, you know, to do that. And GES would say, the Ministry of Education would say, and the government will also say that the government alone cannot do it. But we also expect the government to be ready for discussions on how it can be done, so that we see who else can contribute and take what portion of the task at hand.
Very well. On that score, let me come back to Mr. Jeremiah, because GES, or we've been having this discussion where the women, I think is the Special Mothers Project, they have come before GES saying that at least there are some mothers who genuinely have acquired the skill because they have children with special needs. Is it possible to include them in the training process so that they can also offer some teaching assistance in the classrooms where they find children with special needs?
Well, I think that this is a special area, like I said. But then if, as a result of handling some of these children, there are some techniques and skills in managing these children, nothing stops them from applying to be recruited. And I think that the appropriate authority will go through the recruitment, and then where they fit in, they will be given the nod. So there's no hard and fast.
Very well. Matilda, let me come back to you. So your dream of becoming a nurse, do you still see that being possible?
Yeah.
And you're still passionate about that desire. You feel nothing can stop you at this point?
Yeah.
Very well. Where do you plan to work? Which hospital?
Kolebu.
I thought as much, Kolebu, but everyone is running away from Kolebu, and yet you are embracing it. But certainly we hope that from this discussion, everyone will get on board. It will be beautiful to see that we saw Matilda start off, and we've all helped to make her become the nurse she wants to be. And not only her, I'm sure there are so many others who haven't even been able to get into school because either their parents themselves are disadvantaged, I guess, or don't even know what system to go through to get their children to this stage. But again, let me come to you, Joseph, finally. The children that you work with, are there a couple of them that you see, as it were, retrogressing because they don't get the support they need?
Yes, because during the process, as I'm talking now, I have a child who is supposed to write BC, but going through the process, getting the assessment being done for him to be able to know that if this child will be able to write the exams is another problem. I went to assessment center for about 2 weeks ago. The process, if you should leave the child at the parent, they can't do that unless you take them. Whilst I'm taking them there are others who are in the class. It's become a problem. Now I have a report. I sent it to the office. They said I should bring it to WAEC. The resources, I have to bring it to WAEC before they process it. But what about those who are in the classroom now? That's another challenge that they are facing. And some of them, because they are not getting these access services, so they try stay back. And then there are others too, because parents too have no money. So when they bring them, they don't support them again, then they leave them. Even as I'm talking about Matilda herself, her school fee has not been paid now. So imagine such a child. When they're talking about sacking people for school fees, you see, she too will be guilty, and then it will affect her learning. So if her school fees is being paid, fine. That's another issue. If the parents cannot support, what about the government?
Okay. So let me ask Mr. Jeremiah, because I stand to be corrected, but I think that children with special needs get some form of free education in our current situation. Is that what it is?
Yes, that is what it is. Yeah, that is what it is. Before these free SHS, the children in the special schools, they don't really pay anything. Everything's taken care of for them. Yeah, so
everything in totality.
Yes, except for maybe uniform. Those days, uniform was not included. Maybe sandal and all those things. So those are the things that they provide for themselves. But when it comes to books, their feeding, lodging, whatever it is,
it's given by the government.
Yes, it's given by the. So they were enjoying these things for quite a long time now.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys. So Matilda, your final words to encourage others with disabilities.
I urge parents, society should not stigmatize them. They should accept them, whatever they are. And I urge parents to take their roles to school. From when they don't take them to school, they will be on the street begging for alms, and on the streets it is dangerous to their health and life. So parents will educate their work, and they will become a responsible person in future. Thank you.
Thank you to Matilda. Thank you so much, guys. I've been here with Matilda Abenyega. She's a student with Cerebral Palsy. Also, Eunice Rachel Abenyadi. She's with Star Ghana, Gender Equality and Social Inclusion and Capacity Building Manager there. Also, Stephen Frolich. He's the Chief Technical Officer, Working IT Solutions. Then Jeremiah Bedu. He's with GES. And then finally, Joseph Sapon. He's a resource teacher with GES. Certainly, this interview is supported by Star Ghana with funding from UK8, Danida and EU. I'm sure you enjoyed this conversation, but government can't do it alone. You and I have a role to play, so let's start doing that.